We're here for our second Coffee with Mark interview, where we meet our famous alumni. And yes, famous or infamous in some cases. But I've known this guy for a long time, since 2005. He has a number of wonderful accreditations to his name. Starting with, I met him when, I don't know if you were a captain or a major in the Army at the time. Captain, okay. And so he's a Army helicopter pilot. He's a multi-engine fixed-wing pilot. He retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Army. Has his bachelor's and master's degree from IEMS here at the University of Central Florida, an executive master's degree. Went into industry, and he'll tell you all the details, but these are amazing. Director, vice president, general manager, and today chief strategy officer of Hoverfly Technologies. So it's been an amazing career that you've had, and I know a lot of people would love to hear how you got there. I also know you well enough to know that the best title you have is grandfather.
Right.
So we'd love to hear your story and how you got there. And there have been stories written about this guy on Special Ops, Night Stalker. But tell us your story and how UCF helped you.
No, I appreciate you having me.
Oh man, we love it.
And thanks for the intro, very kind.
Oh, and we have this for you. Waldemar Karwowski sends his regards, the chairman of the department.
Thank you very much. I will put it to good use.
Good.
So, well, as you said, I mean, really, my story started here, at UCF as an undergrad. So, I grew up in a military family. All my brothers were Air Force. I intended to go Air Force, but the stars aligned differently that the Army gave me a scholarship. And so I landed here at UCF in the ROTC program, and I was always really good at math and wanted to be an engineer, to kind of service my background. And dating back to when I was in college, I knew the path to getting a pilot slot in the military was to have a hard science undergrad degree. So that's what brought me here to IEMS the first time. So I look at my career and my journey as chapters and layers of foundation. And that first layer of foundation for what I wanted to achieve in the military started here at IEMS. So I was always into tech and how things worked, and I knew I wanted to fly planes or helicopters. So by the grace of God, I did pretty well in my undergrad and in ROTC, and I was able to get that pilot slot and go into the Army. So that started a series of fortunate and misfortunate events, I would call them, in a really great Army career that I'm very thankful for. Grateful for all those that supported me. So that undergrad degree really served as the foundation to then go into pilot training, learning how to fly Chinooks, and ultimately led me to the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, SOAR, called the Night Stalkers, as you mentioned.
Right.
So I got into that unit flying special operations missions. Afghanistan kicked off. I was one of the first to deploy there, and then Iraq. I was one of the first to deploy there. And through that, through my time as an operator, I could see the tech that we were flying and the technology that made us win. And I also saw the tech that needed improvement. So I made the decision to transition my career from being an operational pilot to an R&D acquisition officer in the military. So that was during OIF-1. So I was in Iraq, and I got a phone call from my branch manager and said, "Hey, you need to come home." And I'm like, "I just come home?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're going. We're filling advanced civil schooling slots, and you're going. You're coming out of Iraq, and you're going back to college." And so I was like, it was kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll just get on a plane and come home. And it was kind of simple as that. I got on a plane and came home. And through that, I'm like, well, where, can I go anywhere? Right. They're like, you can go anywhere, within reason. Right? And so I chose to come back to UCF. I had always, had that draw, and appreciation for what I gained here the first go around.
Right.
So I wanted to prove to people that you can finish twice. So, and that's where our paths cross, right? So, so that that program was good for me in so many different ways. Number one, I was. I think I was a fairly above average officer and leader in the military. I had, a new tech that we were flying. I knew things that needed to be improved. I knew the impact that I wanted to have as an acquisition corps officer. But I didn't think I had the skill set as an engineering manager. I hadn't done raw engineering. I hadn't worked that much with industry. So the graduate degree program that you were a big part of my life in really set another layer of foundation for my success in the military. I went from this grad degree to running, millions and millions of dollars of programs for the military.
Yes.
Working directly with industry. And the interesting thing about special operations, I went back to special operations, and I was an acquisition for the unit that I was part of. And the interesting thing about how acquisition works in special operations aviation versus conventional aviation is who is the integrator of technology. Generally, in the conventional Army, a program office will work with Boeing or Sikorsky.
All the big guys. Yeah.
They are the integrator. Right. They then sub out to subsystems and whatnot.
Sure.
In special operations, it's a very small group of very, very sophisticated aircraft.
Yeah.
And we, the program office, were the integrator. Not that the OEMs weren't. They didn't provide the core central integration functions that most programs do. We did that. So my point there is, I went from being an operational pilot in the Army to being an engineering manager of government types, and then contracts that touched a lot of different subcontractors that fed into integrating technology into our aircraft. Yeah. A lot of technology that I firmly believe today has saved lives, made our aircraft safer.
Sure.
So the coursework here in that program, I'm convinced set the conditions for me to do well in acquisition and serving our special operations aviators.
Interesting.
So
a lot of the stuff that you're going over right now, Kevin has given back many times. He's been on the Dean's Advisory Board, and he's going to be a guest lecturer for me again in the fall. But these are the stories that the students will just, love, because it's real world, and it kind of gives them hope as to what their future might be. Yeah.
Right. I couldn't agree more. It's you take academics and how does it apply to real world?
Sure.
That's one of the things I really appreciated about the classes that I took with you, because some professors are just professors their entire career.
Right.
But professors that have real world experience that you shared with us, you really got to kind of assimilate what you're learning in class to how it really works out there.
Yeah.
Because it's never really like one for one. Right?
No, right.
And I learned that many ways the hard way.
Sure.
After my military career.
Sure.
So when I left the military in 2014, I wanted to climb in business, but I still wanted to serve the warfighter. So I jumped into the defense industry. And I've had a really great journey since.
You have. I have your resume in front of me. Was it with NAMO you started?
I started with NAMO,
right.
A Norwegian ammunition and energetics manufacturer. Like I said, I wanted to grow in global business.
Right.
So that's what kind of precipitated me, seeking an MBA.
Right.
Georgetown. I couldn't go back to UCF a third time.
No, that's a good school.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So with NAMO, I really learned the technical tech development on the corporate side, the civilian side of what feeds into our warfighters. So I had a really good appreciation for requirements and how requirements drive industry decisions, and then how industry decisions drive and impact the Department of Defense and our warfighters.
Remember this for the class that you're going to be teaching for me in the fall. That's exactly what we need to hear.
Yeah. So after NAMO, I went out to Oregon and joined an aerospace company. I still, again, serving the warfighter. We overhauled aircraft for the Marine Corps, and we operated commercial aircraft for special operations.
Right.
So it was kind of like I was still in that world, but I was in the corporate world. So that was a great experience on.
That was Erickson
helicopters.
Right.
So again, you piece together all these experiences in industry that tie back to your military career, that tie back to the academics that you learn to set those foundational levels.
Right.
So
yeah. And then you left Portland, and well, you stayed in Portland with Teledyne, right?
Stayed in Portland with FLIR. Ran their airborne gimbal business. So another thing I try to explain to folks that are getting out of the military, especially, there's many paths you can take. Right? You can stay working for the government. You can go into industry and just work business development and marketing. I wanted to work profit and loss.
Right.
I wanted to have a direct impact on making money
Sure.
for
Bottom
our
line,
company,
yeah. Right.
but also still serving the warfighter.
Right.
So FLIR was a good opportunity to run a big profit and loss, a big business unit. So I was able to lead their gimbal business, their camera business for aircraft and boats and vehicles. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
Through that experience, we got acquired by another defense company, Teledyne.
Right.
That was a whole nother graduate degree on being acquired by another company.
Yes.
Some good, some bad.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, again, another learning block in my development.
Yes.
Again, that's another thing I try to express to people is, folks coming out of school, folks in school, folks coming out of the military, is that look at all of your life experiences, building blocks to attain goals, and always set those goals to go after them. My goal coming out of the military is I want to be a CEO.
Right.
Right. So all these building blocks, build you and your experience up to achieving those. So
Well, one of the things I love hearing you say is that some of the challenges that you faced and the mistakes you made, I think you learn best from the mistakes.
I totally agree
You don't learn well from the successes.
No,
Yeah.
no, and it's how you handle the mistakes,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And it's how you handle your team's mistakes.
Right.
So some of them can be really bad, but
Yeah.
how you handle those,
Yeah.
can
And they're looking for a
set
leader.
the windsock for the company, moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So after Teledyne FLIR, I had enough of the West Coast. I'm an East Coaster, and I consider myself a Floridian now.
Right.
The stars aligned to come back here to Central Florida.
Yeah.
So now serving as the Chief Strategy Officer and co-CEO of Hoverfly.
Yeah.
And I get most excited about that because it's the level I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
But it's back here home.
Yeah.
And we, the company has such strong UCF roots.
Yes.
Founded out of the incubator system here. One founder, was a former assistant dean.
Right.
Fabulous. Other founder, a software guy out of here. He's brilliant.
Right.
And now I get to go to work with a ton of UCF engineers,
You really do.
interns and
engineers.
and engineers that we've hired out of
Yeah.
UCF.
Yeah.
This company started as a tech startup,
Right.
and now we're producing hundreds of drones for the Army.
Yeah.
So again, I get to serve the warfighter,
Yeah.
and I get to be here in where this all started for
Yeah.
me. So
And the
now,
rubber meets the road. I mean, you're doing everything. I've been to your facility. I've watched you in action, and it's everything from solving engineering problems to profit and loss statements and building a back office for the financial
right.
component of your company, dealing with employee problems. You're doing it all now.
So yeah, you wear many hats in a
Yes.
tech startup.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But again, I go back to even my undergrad degree here that set me up for becoming and developing into a strong leader in the military. That set the conditions for me to be a strong leader in acquisition and working with the defense industry. That set me up for being a leader in growing in industry.
Yeah.
There was two levels of UCF academics. In those layers of my growth and progression, to what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So I get jazzed, and I'm very grateful for the opportunities that that UCF gave me, that the Army gave me, that you gave me, back in 2005, 2006. And the friendships that I've been able to maintain all these years, dating back to my undergrad and the graduate program here, those are things that that just it's easy to smile and be grateful for as you get older and longer in the tooth and gray in your beard.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So yeah, that's now I look at. I go to work and I see some of these young engineers. It's like, I am a grandpa, a real grandpa.
Right.
But I look at some of these. They're kids, but they're not kids. They're brilliant.
And they give you hope for the future.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I mean, I see some of the interns that we get from UCF.
Right.
I'm like, I wasn't that.
Yeah,
back
I
then.
know.
I was a knucklehead back then.
Right.
But it does give you hope for the future.
Yeah.
And UCF produces a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I love having a company here in this area because the talent
It's a feeder
pool,
system.
It is
Yeah.
a feeder system.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Harris Rosen did with the hotel system. He has all these hotels, and he gave a bunch of money to UCF to start a hospitality program. It's a feeder system to his program, so it works out
And
well.
I think that's what you're seeing here in Central Florida.
I do
more
too.
More tech moving into Central Florida. This university, this engineering program from '94 when I was here to now, it's sick.
Yeah.
It's just it's been fun to watch and be part of.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin has a bunch of hobbies. I'll tell you one funny story. So when he was a student, I mean, this is a trained killer, right? Famous within the Army. It was my birthday, and he baked me a birthday cake. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I held on to the container for that birthday cake for almost a decade until I met him in Washington, D.C. and brought it back to him. But tell me some of the things that you're interested in, your hobbies. I know you've been jumping, skydiving a bunch recently.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you like?
Main hobby's golf. Golf has always been kind of therapy for me.
Right.
After the Army, I was able to continue to fly planes for a number of years. I was a partner in a plane in D.C. And then when I went to Erickson Helicopters, I flew my own a bench of different helicopters. My CEO wanted me to fly the company plane, so that led to more flight training. As a 40-some-year-old man, all the way up to commercial multi-engine and King Air School. So when I left Erickson, there was kind of a void there, and I got back here to Florida. And it's kind of a funny story. I have friends like, you should try skydiving. And I thought back to myself, my first assignment in the military was in Korea. So I spent 2 years in Korea, and there was a skydiving program. It was a club, an Army-sponsored club. And so I joined this club, and I did one jump. It was accelerated free fall. It wasn't, where they pull your chute for you. It was two instructors. You fall together. You pull your own chute. I loved it.
Yeah.
This was in 1996. About a month after I joined the club, had my first jump. Once you know it, budget cuts, and the army killed the club. Yeah. So for over 20 years, periodically for 20 years, I kind of had regrets that I never finished it.
Right.
And so recently this year, I went all in, and I got my skydiving license. And
oh, it's done?
It's done.
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. So it's I started the 1st of January, and I'll have 100 jumps by the end of this month.
Nice.
So I call it air therapy.
Yes.
I love going to Hoverfly day in and day out. It's high stress but high reward. But my therapy is going and jumping out of airplanes from 13,000 feet. Very cool. So I'd say that's probably taken over golf a little bit. And then I try to still do a little bit of woodworking. So
yeah, I've seen some of your work on woodworking, and you're certainly into weightlifting, and I've seen the gym that you've built in your garage.
Yeah,
so
fitness will always, you could take the man out of the Army, but not the Army out of the man. So,
that's true.
I still am an early riser and have to start the day with some sort of activity. Yeah. I don't recover like I used to.
You tell me about it.
So
I'll tell you at lunch about my broken ribs.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Running with the bulls?
I've ran with the bulls twice.
Right.
I probably passed that part of my life.
Yeah, good.
But the NAMO job, working for the Norwegian ammunition company, we had facilities all through Scandinavia and Europe.
Yeah.
So that was a blessing that I would,
Sure.
as the Washington D.C. guy,
Right.
I would still visit all of our facilities.
Right.
And had just a great experience to travel and see a lot of places, to include Spain and a couple times to Pamplona.
Yeah, well, and in your Army career, I remember hearing your stories of the garden spots you would travel to, Djibouti and
Yemen.
Yemen.
I've been to places I never would have thought I've been to. Yemen.
Right.
I didn't even know Mauritania was a country.
Right.
So all through East Africa, not I wouldn't call it we call them garden spots.
Yeah,
but,
right.
I've never thought I'd be in a capital city, Niamey, Niger, and there's like one paved road around the city.
Right.
All the roads in the capital city are dirt roads.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's been a blessing to just experience many cultures.
Yes.
Through my Army and post-Army life.
Yes.
So I encourage anyone to seek a job where they get to build in some travel.
Right.
So
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, and students ask us all the time, for advice on their careers, and I think you're giving them great advice. Challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Take the risky assignment that you normally wouldn't take, and it'll open up all kinds of opportunities and doors for you. And I think you're just the epitome of that.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
I mean, you
Failure
said
is
it.
not
You said
failure.
it early on. It's if you don't fail, you're not going to get better.
That's right.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's all about how you handle failure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Kevin has given back, as I've mentioned, a number of times to the university. He's spoken to the Society of Sales Engineers before. He's going to be a guest lecturer, so some of you watching this video now will see him again in the fall. But I've been blessed to have known him for a long time. We're growing old together.
That's right.
I'm a little ahead of you, probably a lot ahead of you. But nonetheless, we thank you so much for everything that you've done for the university, what you've done for the students, and especially this interview, because, like I said, students really, and you mentioned it earlier, students really want to hear from people who have done something. And it may entice them to head in a certain direction that they normally wouldn't have headed. So I think this will be very beneficial, and we're certainly proud to have you as an alum.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I look forward to being part of your classes this fall. And,
Yeah.
traveling back over the years to talk to your students has been just a pleasure.
Yeah.
So,
To
like
us too.
you said, this university has a great population of our future leaders and future engineers, and it does give you hope.
It does give you hope. That's right.
Thanks,
Well,
Mark.
for being here, brother. All
You
right.
as well.
All right.